It's now time to call our meeting of the Bulloch County Board of Commissioners to order. I would like to welcome the media and visitors. I would also like to remind everyone to silence their cell phones and other devices so that we may conduct the people's business without interruption. Commissioner Anthony Simmons will give the invocation and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Bow with me, please. Dear Lord, we'd like to thank you for waking us up this morning and starting us on the way, letting us see another beautiful day. Dear Lord, we'd ask you would just protect those men and women who are in the foreign countries, protecting us so we could have this meeting. We'd like to ask that you could protect those who are here, our men and women who protect us each day on our streets, our men and women who come to our help when our houses are on fire, when we're in need. Dear Lord, we ask that you just protect the farmers and help them bring in a good crop, dear Lord. We like to ask that you would protect each and one of us that are here today. We ask that you would help us make good decisions on this board that will be pleasing in your sight, dear Lord. We ask that we just continue to just help us do what is right in your sight. All these things we ask in your name. Amen. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, and liberty and justice for all.
Ms. Mincy White will call the roll of the commissioners.
I, Venus Mincy White, present as Clerk of the Board of Commissioners of Bulloch County, hereby call the roll for those on the governing body. All those present shall answer by saying aye. Chairman David Bennett.
Aye.
Vice Chairman Toby Connor.
Aye.
Commissioner Ray Mosley.
Aye.
Commissioner Anthony Simmons.
Aye.
Commissioner Nick Newkirk.
Aye.
Commissioner Timmy Rushing. Commissioner Ray Davis.
Aye.
I've determined that we have 6 members of the Board of Commissioners present. Therefore, we have a quorum to conduct business for the good of the citizens of Bulloch County. I now yield the floor back to the chairman.
Thank you. I'm going to ask Mr. Dink Butler and Mr. Robert Siemens to come up to the podium for me, please. Yeah, Joe. Get the whole crowd up here. I got a whole page of stuff here to read, but I'm not going to read it. This year marks the 65th Annual National Public Works Week. It's sponsored by the American Public Works Association. What we have up here right now is a representation of just a few people that do a whole lot of heavy lifting in this county. You know, we've all been affected by the storms this year. You know, the roads were closed out in many places, power lines were down. And while people were worried about how they were going to get to town and how they were going to get groceries or gas or whatever they needed, these folks here were out there working to make sure that we could get where we needed to go and that we could get ambulances, fire, and EMS where they needed to be to help folks. So I like to think of them as the unsung heroes of this county in the sense that, you know, everybody thinks that, oh, well, we got fire, EMS, and law enforcement. They're out there working every day to keep us safe. These folks do the same thing. They keep our roads clear. They keep our roads in good shape. They work to make sure that we have what we need in this community. And, you know, this is one of the vital functions of what local government is supposed to do. And you want to talk about doing more with less, they do an impressive job of doing that. And I thank you for what you do every day. So I'm going to read this proclamation here. Now therefore be it resolved, we, the Bulloch County Board of Commissioners, do hereby designate the week May 18th through May 24th, 2025 as National Public Works Week. I urge all citizens to join with representatives of the American Public Works Association and government agencies in activities, events, and ceremonies designed to pay tribute to our public works professionals, engineers, managers, and employees, and to recognize the substantial contributions they make to protecting our national health, safety, and advancing quality of life for all. Thank you.
Tiffany, you want to step up and take that?
Well, I gotta fix it first where I just broke it. So, if we get y'all to come in just a little bit, there we go. Everybody look. There we go. Got it. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank
You
you.
gotta take that with you.
I got it.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, now the fun stuff's done. I'm gonna ask for a motion to adjourn this meeting. Nice try. So before I entertain a motion to approve the general agenda, do we have any discussion or modification desired by the county manager or the board? I see heads nodding, so I'm going to assume that's a no. Okay. If there's no discussion, do I have a motion to approve the general agenda?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
All in favor? Motion passes unanimously. Okay, moving on. At this time, I'll recognize those citizens who have signed up to address the board. Once your name is called, come to the podium, state your name and address for the record, and make your comments. All speakers who are recognized will be allotted 5 minutes. And we have nobody that wants to speak tonight. So moving along to the consent agenda. I'm going to read these items, and then we'll discuss them when we get done here. First one, approve the minutes from Tuesday, April 15th, 2025. Next, approve the minutes from Tuesday, April 15th, 2025, executive session. Then approve the minutes from Tuesday, April 17th, 2025, special meeting. Approve a bid and enter into a contract with CR Industrial Services Incorporated for the installation of generators for Station 2, Station 3, Station 9, and Station 16 in the amount of $51,024.84 to be funded by the 24-25 general fund budgeted for the Bulloch County Fire Department. Grant a 2025 alcoholic beverage license for package and retail beer and wine sales to Aria K 2025 Incorporated, located at 1163 Highway 24, Statesboro, Georgia, formerly Mill Creek Number 1. Approve a proposal from Pape Dawson Engineers to provide design and engineering services for a deceleration lane along State Highway 67 onto Anderson Cemetery Road for a lump sum fee of $37,500. Approve ambulance repairs in the amount of $18,034.63 from Statesboro Tire and Brake. Approve payment to Jenkins County C&D landfill for mulch disposal for the week of April 21st, 2025 through April 25th, 2025 in the amount of $82,825.25. Approve the purchase of a Farmall 90 horsepower tractor for Bulloch County Agricultural Complex from Tidewater Equipment in the amount of $69,467.43. We can collectively approve these items, or we can move any item into new business for further discussion.
I'd like to move number 4 and number 6, please.
Any other changes? Number 9. We're going to move number 4, number 6, and number 9 to new business. Do I have a motion on the remainder of these?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Got a first from Mr. Simmons and a second from Mr. Davis. Is there any discussion at this time? All in favor? Motion passes unanimously. Do you want to do these ones first or come back to them? Okay. All right, so we're going to go ahead and move on to new business. First up, I've got, it's going to be Davenport and Company. It's going to be Mr. Roger Murray. Let me try this again. Roger Murray and Doug Gebhardt. They're going to talk to us about the issuance of revenue bonds.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name's Doug Gebhardt with Davenport and Company. We're serving as the county's financial advisor, and Roger Murray is with the firm Murray Barnes Finister, and he'll serve as the bond counsel. And so if there's legal questions, Roger's here to answer those, but I'm here to kind of talk through kind of the finances and the plan of finance and get your blessing on the recommended path forward. Again, thank you for the opportunity to be here today. As we dig into the presentation, you have a hard copy in front of you and electronic versions up on the screen. What we are ultimately looking to finance is for the jail expansion project. The county had a study done that broke it out into 3 different phases. But what we're ultimately looking to pursue today is the phase 1 of that project, which totals just north of $61.5 million. So that's what we've focused our presentation here today. So flipping the page, as a reminder to, and this presentation is meant to be interactive, so please stop me if you have any questions along the way. As a reminder, this project was included in the SPLOST referendum that was approved by the voters in November, or in March, pardon me. That authorized up to $138 million of collections countywide, which will begin October 1 of 25. Within that SPLOST authorization, it included $51 million that could be allocated towards this project, with approximately $708,000 monthly going towards this. That's kind of how the breakout is. So every dollar that comes in first, the first $708,000 goes to this, totaling $51 million. Obviously, based upon the estimated project cost of 61.5, $51 million only covers a portion of that, not to mention any interest that might be involved. So we have to look at exploring ways to seek longer-term financing options in order for you all to be able to accomplish these projects. So flipping to page 3, what our job and what we've been tasked by county staff to pursue is really to develop a series of funding options for your consideration, and we'll come forth with you with really 2 potential options, but a recommended option within those 2. And our goal, obviously, is to produce something that has the favorable cost of borrowing, that strategically uses that $51 million that has been authorized by the voters, and also makes use of future SPLOST, and also how that might impact general fund dollars in the future. But ultimately want to do is recommend a path forward that does not jeopardize the county's fiscal creditworthiness or credit strengths that you currently enjoy today. So we want to make sure that our recommended approach keeps all of those intact. Any questions before I move to kind of the next section? Seeing none, we'll move on. Just a reminder for those on the board, this is the countywide SPLOST on page 5. And you can see that the county's enjoyed some pretty nice growth on the county SPLOST, averaging, just shy of 10% over the last 5 years, growing from 13.5 million to just north of 19 million in the last, what we'll call the SPLOST year. And so flipping to the next page, one of the things that we wanted to think about or consider is that within the SPLOST intergovernmental agreement, additional surplus dollars could potentially be used for this project. But based upon the projections that got to that number, they're fairly aggressive. So going from 8% down to 6%. So in this analysis, we've kind of been overly conservative and didn't assume that any surplus funds above the originally allocated $51 million would be available to be allocated towards this project. Again, as a reminder, collections on this next SPLOST begin October 1 of this year. So obviously, I think one of the, flipping to the next few pages, is a natural question as you're thinking about entering the market for debt is what interest rates have been doing. And so what we've done on the next 2 pages is really taken a look at, to show you what tax exempt interest rates have done since January of '23, so over the last 2 years. And they've really been in a relatively narrow trading window. Right now, while interest rates are higher than they were in pandemic levels, they're kind of been consistent since the Fed has raised their rates towards the end of 2022. Towards the far right end of the page, there's a little bit of a market blip as a result of some of the tariff announcements. But since then, the market has been stabilized, and we're seeing still plenty of demand for tax exempt paper. So we would expect no issues being able to go to market for this issuance. And the next page just shows the rates since the start of this year. You can see they've been relatively stable over the start of 2025. So as we think about this, moving into the financing approach in our scenario overview, based upon our conversation with the county staff and our understanding of the financing mechanisms available to the county at hand, we're recommending an issuance through the Public Facilities Authority via a public market sale. The way that the Public Facilities Authority issuance would work is that the Public Facilities Authority issues the bonds on behalf of the county. Then the county would then enter into an intergovernmental agreement with the authority to guarantee the repayment of that bond. And within that intergovernmental agreement, you would be pledging your full faith and credit and taxing power to support that. So if you have questions on the legal structure, Roger's here to answer that, but I think I did a high-level view of that. So ultimately, you're pledging your full faith and credit, but our plan is to utilize SPLOST revenues to repay the debt. But I think it's an important consideration for us as we think about our future analysis and where we come to our recommendation here today, is that in the event the next iteration of SPLOST, it's not included on the ballot, if there's something that happens, ultimately the general fund is what is on the hook for the repayment of the debt. So I think that's an important consideration. So that's the type of bond we're going to do it. The way we're going to issue, or way we're recommending issuing it, is through a public market sale as opposed to a direct bank loan. Just given the relative size of the transaction at hand and the term that we're looking to issue, the amount of banks that can go out 20 years is very limited, and there's not virtually any banks that are able to loan north of $60 million. So we're going to go out to the public markets, renew the county's credit rating, prepare an official statement, and ultimately sell the bonds competitively, which means we put it out to bid, and unbiased as to who provides the lowest interest cost on the day of the sale. So that's who we'll be awarding the purchase of the bonds to. And then ultimately, that's when we'll know the final rates, and they'll be locked in, and we'll come back to you all with those recommendations. So as we look about we've talked about how we're going to do it and the method of sale. We looked at 2 potential scenarios for you. First is what we call scenario 1, which is a 12-year amortization structure. So the thought for that is it would match basically 2 SPLOST cycles. So not this one, and then the 2031 SPLOST as well. And we also looked at a case that went out 20 years as well. For purposes of conservatism, we added in 0.5% of cushion to the interest rate in our assumptions here today. So flipping forward a few pages here without boring you on the assumptions, various closing dates, couponing structure, repayment provisions, but ultimately what the debt service looks like. This is on scenario 1. And so what you can see on this particular case in the first 6 years, highlighted there in the blue section of that year presentation, is that we've maximized that $51 million. So we're paying off as much debt as we possibly can within the next 6 years with that $51 million. And we've taken into account and run the detailed cash flows to make sure it all works. So in order to pay that off within a 12-year period, consistent with 2-year SPLOST, The remaining debt service on the bond would be roughly $4.5 million a year over the next 6 years. So that total would bring you to roughly $27 million that would need to come from the next SPLOST in order to make this happen. Okay? Any questions about that?
What's the interest rate on this?
So if you look down there on the bottom right-hand side, the all-in true interest cost is 4.29%. That includes all closing costs, fees associated with that.
You mentioned the next SPLOST. Can the next SPLOST pay off existing debt?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
It needs to be worded appropriately and working with bond counsel and your staff to make sure that it'd be done in
Okay.
that fashion.
Is there any way to do a shorter than 12 years?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Do you have those numbers?
We don't at this time.
Okay. All right. Just hate to pay $16 million worth of interest. And how about a GO bond? Was that not an option for this?
It would require going to voter referendum,
Okay.
which is an ability to do so. But I would have to ask Roger if it would be eligible for SPLOST repayment.
When you say a GEO bond issue, do you mean one that's gonna be paid off during what I consider a GEO sales tax bond issue that's gonna be paid off during the 6 years? Or a separate GEO bond issue where you're gonna have the question for, a longer term bond?
It would be I guess the 6 years.
The 6 years, yeah.
Yeah.
So you can do as part and parcel of an existing sales tax, you can add on GEO bonds at the same time, but it has to be paid off within that 6-year term. And so that the math doesn't work here to get it paid off in the 6-year term. So then you have to default, if you're gonna go beyond 6 years, you have to either use the revenue bond structure, or you have to have a separate question, can we issue GEO bonds that are something longer than the 6 years? And then it would be paid off with this, sales tax and then a future sales tax after that.
What's the interest rate on a GO bond compared to a revenue bond that we're doing?
It's the same.
Yeah, it's the same.
It's the same half
Yeah,
percent?
same thing. And bear in mind that this is his estimate. We won't know the actual interest rate until you make a decision and we solicit, the sale of the bonds, and they'll be locked in. So we'd come back before you at a future meeting date. This is just his best estimate right now.
With
current market conditions.
with a 0.5% of
Yeah.
cushion.
Plus 0.5%.
Yes, sir. So we could go shorter, it would just further stress a future SPLOST, but we really can't go shorter within that 6-year period because we've maximized this current SPLOST.
Yeah, I understand that. I was just thinking like maybe an 8 or 9 years, 8 or 9 year versus a 12. See what the difference in the total cost would be on something like that.
You could do that, but then you'd really have no dollars left over for any other capital projects. So if you're going back and look, and your total countywide collections last year was only $19 million, right? And so I don't know how much is allocable towards the county, but assuming, like I said, I don't have the rough numbers here, but it would basically take almost a full 2 years plus of collections and have no other projects to be able to get done if you were to explore that option.
And one of the points that'll become clear in a minute is going 12 years or going 20 years, you can still, we're gonna preserve the option for you able to pay it off early. So, again, if you look at the 20 years or you look at the 12 years, you can prepay the bonds. The standard call or prepayment provision in a bond deal is 10 years. And you could actually get a shorter call if you wanted. But for example, in his numbers, where he has it going 12 years out, if you wanted to, you could actually prepay him in year 10, thereby reducing the interest rate, the interest that are paid for the last 2 years. It's almost like, think about when you do a home loan. If you can get a 10-year, 15-year, 20-year, or 30 years. What a lot of people do is they start with the 30-year, and then they know they can prepay it early if they want. So they have a smaller payment for future flexibility, but then if they want, they can prepay it early. So I'm
Yeah.
sorry to interrupt there.
No, helpful.
That's kind of the concept of with the 10-year prepayment provision.
Did that answer your question? You have further questions? Okay. And so what I mentioned earlier on the structure between doing the revenue bond through the Public Facilities Authority, guaranteeing the full faith and credit, makes it critical on page 16, the next page, is what would happen if, for some reason, we can't obligate future boards to put this on the SPLOST. We can't obligate the citizens to approve the SPLOST. We don't know how negotiations with the city, if they're going to guarantee dollars up front. And so what we wanted to show you guys is, hey, at the end of year 6, what would happen if something unforeseen were to occur and either there's a failed referendum or the next board doesn't put this project on, what would it look like in terms of the impact on your overall finances? And so what we did here is showing that the debt service comes out to roughly $4.5 million a year. And so based upon your current county digest, the estimated mill produces roughly $3.5 million. And so let's say for some reason it doesn't happen and fiscal year 2032 comes around and we now have to find $4.5 million in our budget. What's the millage equivalent impact that would occur to the county's finances? And that would be 1.29 mils based upon the current digest. So we're not saying that a future board would have to increase the millage rate. You would have to think about cutting expenses, increasing the millage, finding other revenue sources, but the millage equivalent impact is 1.29 mils, which we thought was pretty substantial and something that you all needed to be aware of, that if a SPLOST wasn't approved in the future, that ultimately the county's general fund would be on the hook. So that's part of the reason we didn't go much shorter, because if we made those payments $10 million plus, that's a pretty big nut to crack on the general fund. So what we did on the next scenario is scenario 2. We looked at going out 20 years. And 20 years is what I would say is typical for a governmental facility. It kind of matches the useful life of the asset. It creates a little bit more of that generational equity. So those that are using the facility pay for the facility over the same amount of time. That's typically what we see for governmental type projects. And so what we can do is, in this particular case, you can see we still maximized the upfront first 6 years to maximize that $51 million. But then we amortized the remaining years 7 through 20, what's called a level debt service, or a mortgage style repayment, where it's the same annual payment in any given year. And that number decreased from $4.5 million to $2.4 million. And so the debt service being paid out of the potential next SPLOST decreased from $27 million down to $14.3 million. And so one of the benefits of doing it this way is that, knowing that the county's a growing county and there's going to be additional projects, there's additional phases of the jail that needs to be done, is that just alone in reducing that debt service structure, that debt service repayment, even though you're going to be paying slightly more interest over time, does create a little bit of flexibility as you're thinking about future projects, future pay-go capital, future budgetary impacts. And so what we did on the next page showed you what the millage equivalent impact would be going out on the next one. And very similarly, general fund could potentially be on the hook in the future. But that millage equivalent impact dropped from 1.29 down to 0.68, 0.69, depending on the rounding in any given year. And so what we did on obviously that allows for some flexibility in cash flow, so decisions don't have to be made today. But we wanted to show you on what the next page looked like. As Roger mentioned, we wanted to show you that the way that we're structuring these bonds allow for repayment at year 10 without penalty. And so what we said is, hey, you can still structure the bonds to be paid off over a 20-year period, but you could have the ability to pay this off early if that's the desire of the board in the future. So what we showed is that on this page, that the remaining 15.5 million that would be outstanding at the end of the next SPLOST would get paid off early. So by paying it off early, as opposed to leaving it to final maturity, you have a pretty decent interest rate savings by going forth in that manner. So that is a potential option, that it kind of gives you the best of both worlds, where it gives you future cash flow flexibility, but could pay it off early if it's the desire of the board at that time. And so what we've done on this page is, the next page showed the various debt service summaries and the various millage rate impacts and the total debt service. Obviously the scenario 2, paying it off over a longer period, does create a little bit more interest costs, but it does allow for some financial flexibility. So wrapping up here, the recommendation and rationale, based upon our conversations with county staff, we're thinking that the option 2 financing is the recommended approach. And the reason for that is, one, it maximizes the funds available from the current SPLOST, and it leaves you the most flexibility in the future. One, it allows you flexibility in how many dollars are allocated from the future SPLOST. So you could continue to pay debt service, so you only have to come up with 14 million, or you could pay it off early and come up with 29 million, or it could be some combination thereof. Whatever work, mixes and matches works in the future, it gives you that flexibility. It also gives you the ability to allocate future SPLOST dollars to projects that may be critical at the time. You don't know where we're going to be 6 years from now, and there might be some additional projects that might require more immediate SPLOST dollars off the top, that the jail's not as critical at that point. So that's another way. And then obviously, I think it minimizes the potential impact on the millage rates in the general fund in the event some unforeseen reason that SPLOST dollars aren't available to service debt beyond year 6. Then obviously, you could redeem the bonds early, and 20 years is typical for the governmental type projects. So that's our recommendation to you today, following conversations with county staff. And then the next page, as I wrap up, and then I'll open the floor for any questions you may have, is tonight you have in front of you a resolution asking, authorizing the professionals and staff to proceed with the issuance of these bonds. And within that resolution, you're directing us to the path that you want us to move forward. So hoping to get some direction on that today. June 17th, we're going to come back to you to adopt what's called the parameters bond resolution, which sets forth the not to exceed terms and conditions with the issuance of the debt, par amount, interest rates, final maturities, maximum annual debt service, just to name a few. We'll go through the legal process, validate the bonds, talk to the rating agencies in early to mid-July, and come back to you with the bond sale results on August 5th, at which point we would ask the board and the facilities authority to formally approve the pricing, the final pricing results and terms and conditions with the associated with the sale the morning of that day, and we would close towards the end of August. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions. And Roger, anything you'd like to add from the legal perspective?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thank you again for your time. I know it's a lot of information, a lot to digest, but we hope this gave you some clarity on the path forward. And we're excited to be working on this project and serving as the county's financial advisor.
going back to the bonds and doing the revenue generating bonds, is there any advantage to doing a government authority financing versus a revenue generating bond?
So the facilities authority bond is the only way that we think that the county can produce, to get a credit rating that would be sufficient to cover the debt service and get in that AA. To do a revenue-producing bond, you'd only have to rely on the revenues of the project that would be being produced. And we know that, a jail probably wouldn't be enough to self-sustain its own revenue sources. So you're looking at interest rates and terms that would be materially longer and more expensive.
Was that your question, a pure revenue bond versus the structure we're proposing?
Well, instead of doing a revenue generating bond, what is the advantage of that over a government authority financing? Just where we
Well,
would,
this really is a government authority. So you probably are familiar with development authority, the development
Right.
authority you have. So the development authority assists in financing private projects, right? The development authorities cannot do governmental projects. Well, you all had legislation adopted at the General Assembly that created a public facilities authority. The Public Facilities Authority is an authority that's set up to do to assist with governmental financing. So Development Authority does private financings. The Public Facilities Authority's sole purpose is to do what it's doing right here, and that is to assist with governmental financings. And so the way it works is they have the power to issue bonds, right, to finance governmental projects, and you obviously have the power to provide a jail. And then you enter into an intergovernmental contract related to that jail, and you basically agree to pay the debt service on the bonds. That's the structure. And because, as Doug explained, because the county is sort of guaranteeing, if you will, the debt service on the bonds, then you get the same credit rating as if you did a GO bond issue. So, and it's a there's Public Facilities Authority created all over the state by cities and counties. It's used widely, very common structure. The investors are used to seeing it. The rating agencies are used to seeing it.
so one more question. Additional debt, why wouldn't we just wait till the end of the SPLOST when we have this $60 million and then go out and build a jail versus accruing all the debt?
Yeah, naturally, I think there's two answers to this. One is that, your voters approved it, and so they want to see, projects go right away. And then two, obviously, I think there's inflationary costs, right, and building costs. And if you were to ask this same question, just hypothetically, the voters approved the last one in 2018, and where prices are today, you're looking at your compounding rate of inflation is vastly superior to the interest rate that we're looking at, which is 4%. So not only do you get your project done sooner, which is going to make all your public safety personnel much more happy, you're spending the dollars as they come in. You're not accruing tax monies and just letting it come into the bank, and you're also building the project on today's dollars as opposed to 2031 dollars. And then in 2031, you only have 51 million of the 61 million. So then you have to wait probably another 2 to 3 years to get the additional collections for any additional dollars that would come above and beyond that.
And also to reinvest the bond proceeds during construction. It eases the pain a little bit.
I'd like to ask, Christie, you looked at this, is this part of your recommendation?
Yes, we've had several conversations about this, and the staff supports the recommendation to do the 20-year financing just for the flexibility of it. I at first was a little bit thinking that we should do shorter, but I after thinking all the way through it, we don't know what is going to happen 6 years from now, so it's a little bit scary to think if SPLOST didn't pass and we had to pay for it from the general fund, it would be nice to have that smaller payment, especially with the flexibility to be able to pay it off early. So that's the recommendation that I support.
One of the things about putting things on to Splosh, we had, the Ag Arena had been put on the Splosh for some years, and we kicked it down the road and kicked it down the road. And, the citizens kind of kept asking us, when are we gonna build the Ag Arena? And when we decided to build the Ag Arena, at that time, it cost way more than when we thought it was gonna cost at the time that we put it on there. So that is true, that if you put it on the SPLOST agenda and you don't start doing it, it's gonna cost you more than when you started. That's just the way money goes.
I guess the thing that I would comment too is based on the relationship and what Davenport has done for us in the past, is we've had good results. And I know Christie has looked at the numbers, whatever, and I know that I feel like all the commissioners, we're very intent on finding ways that we can pay this down earlier. As you used the analogy earlier about home mortgages, you know, we don't want to pay it any longer, we have to. But I think it would behoove us to go with the recommendation, so that it gives us some leverage and not put us under pressure. I think we have enough of that already.
Mr. Newkirk, I believe you were wanting to ask a question.
Yeah, I mean, I know the citizens approved this, but it was also stated that it was going to cost like 61 million to build it. And I don't know if the citizens would have approved it if they would have saw 70 or 78 million and $84.5 million. So that's where I'm kind of a little weary on that. I just, you know, you're talking about, I mean, that's $16 million over, and I mean, that's a good bit over that. I don't know if the citizens would have known that, and I don't know if they would have voted for it if they knew it was going to be a bond attached to it. I think everybody, you know, because there was no mentioning of it in the SPLOST. And I think the fact that it was not mentioned in the voting of the SPLOST, that everybody assumed they were just going to build it. You know, I had no idea it was going to be $84 million.
Well, that's fair, you're right, and the ballot question didn't have that, but in the intergovernmental contract, it was also approved at the same time. It specifically mentioned the fact that the building authority would issue debt for it. But you're right, that's not the same thing as having it on the ballot, but it was an integral part of all that.
Any other questions or discussion on this matter?
I'd like to have at least another meeting to look at these numbers. This is $84 million that we just got like 20 minutes ago. You know, if we would have had this information beforehand, that we could have been a little bit more prepped on it, that could have possibly helped. But I think this is more than our annual budget. And we go through a long process for our annual budget, and I think we need some more time to think on this one. So I'd make a motion to table it if I had that opportunity.
So are you stating that in the form of a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to table this for another meeting so we can get all the answers and look through it and actually have time to study an $84 million bond.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Got a second. Any further discussion here? Hearing no further discussion, I'm going to ask for a vote. All in favor? All against? Motion passes 3-2.
Thank y'all.
Mr. Chairman, this is to the next meeting, right?
Yes.
We don't need to let it go longer than that.
I don't think it's been specified, but I think that we can clarify that we'll readdress this with the next agenda. Everybody's in agreement there. Would that be legal for us to do that now? Okay, all right.
I left my card, so I'm the lawyer, he's the finance guy. Feel free, in the meantime, as you get up to speed and you study these, feel free to call me, or email me. I'd be happy to entertain any questions that you all have. I've been working with the county a long time, 20+ years, I think. We did the splash park and other things with you, so, you've got my information. Please reach out to me if you have any questions.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So moving on here, I got our Chief Financial Officer, Christy King, is going to discuss a resolution to amend the estimated costs of projects approved in the 2019 SPLOST referendum.
All right, good evening. So this is a way, just as we were talked about how much things have changed over the last 6 years and how much the SPLOST revenue has grown. We have brought in a lot more SPLOST revenue than we estimated at the beginning, back in 2018. So when the SPLOST referendum is approved, it has estimated costs for all the projects on it, that add up to the total estimated amount of revenue we think we're going to get. So when we bring in more revenue than that, it needs to be, or more sales tax proceeds than that, we need to allocate it to the projects that were approved on the referendum. So that is what this is doing. I've estimated based on the proceeds, the trends of what's been coming in every month, what I believe we will probably receive through the end of this SPLOST period in September. And I'm just allocating those funds to the projects that were already approved by the voters. So that's all this is doing, and it's also allocating interest money. We have this money, some SPLOST funds invested. So this is also allocating the interest to the specific projects. So it's not because of cost overruns. It's just we have to specifically state where we're spending the money on which projects.
Christy, for the record, could you just give us the actual numbers?
Yes. All right, so that's the wrong one. Hold on. I attached them to the wrong thing. All right, the initial estimate for the county projects for 2019 SPLOST was $19,646,800. Our estimated total receipts will be $41,036,000. And then there's also $589,388 of investment income to be allocated. So the total project estimates will be 18 million for public safety, around 11 million. I'd have to do that math in my head for the way that I wrote this. For recreation, 3,750,000 for solid waste, 2.5 million for economic development, $300,000 for voting equipment, 4 million for administrative facilities, 1,775,000 for judicial facilities, and 1.2 million for information technology needs. Is that what you were looking for?
Has that money already been collected and we're just waiting to disperse it now, or has it already been dispersed over this time?
It's a combination. Some of it has already been dispersed, and
just
some of
making it
it's in the
official.
bank. Yeah, this is
Okay.
just making it official.
Any further questions, discussion on this?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
will these expenditures come back before the commissioners for approval?
They all follow our purchasing policy, so if it needed to be approved by the board based on whatever it is, then yes, it will. If it's a small purchase, then it would not necessarily.
So not hearing any further discussion, I'm going to ask for a motion on this issue.
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
All in favor? Motion passes unanimously. Moving on to issue number 3. This is again going to be Christy King. She's going to ask us to approve a resolution to amend the estimated costs of projects approved in the 2018 T-SPLOST referendum.
All right, this is the same situation, but for the T-SPLOST. And this one does not have quite as much of a difference in the amount of proceeds received versus the initial estimate, because under the T-SPLOST law at the time, we couldn't receive excess proceeds. So the T-SPLOST period actually ended early because we had met our total. So there's a little bit of, because they don't, you can't cut off exactly, you don't know how much retail sales tax you're going to receive. So they cut it off at the quarter when you have received your total. So this is just to allocate the remaining that we received at the end, as well as about $2.2 million of investment income. So this is, T-SPLOST is simpler. The county only has 2 approved projects. They're either transportation projects or they're airport projects. So we are asking to allocate an additional $1,062,963 to the airport and $4,605,383 to the roads projects.
I see a lot of digesting, but is there any questions or discussion at this time?
Motion to approve, Mr. Chairman.
Do I hear a second? Second. All in favor? Motion passes unanimously. Moving on to number 4. This is approve a resolution to authorize the acquisition of certain real property and approve a real estate sales contract regarding the same. And I believe this is going to be Mr. D. Cosby from the Recreation Department.
Good evening. And what we want to do, we went about 2 years ago. We lost the areas that we had that we were playing for recreation there in Portal. The school needed a track. Where they decided to build it was right where we were doing all our recreational activities. Now what we have here through you guys, it's been about a 2-month process that we've been trying to kind of acquire some land that we can put a complex there in Portal to serve that area that we have not had a complex there since I've been employed here with Bulloch County. It's almost 27 years. Here in Portal, what we're looking at doing is having ball fields. It does have a barn that we can easily convert over to one of our maintenance storage areas. And then there's also a house there that I would like to retrofit to where we can add to that area that's going to need for after school and also summer camp, that hopefully when all that does get complete, that we can probably add between 60 to 70 more kids that we're able to help with summer camp and also after school activities that is needed there in that Portal area. I know with you guys, we have met with the landowner and we have agreed to a purchase price. I think I have been in contact with all you guys to let you guys know what we have there. Now we're just seeking the final approval to move forward with getting signatures.
think it's a great thing. I'm big into the rec department. Coach, been coaching for a long time, and Portal's always needed it. So I appreciate y'all pushing forward with it and finding this for the opportunity for those kids up there in Portal. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it, Commissioner Newkirk. Any other questions?
We also looking for some of this possibly used for other public safety, right?
Potentially
Good
what we're
potential.
gonna do with the acres that we're getting, once we send all our RFPs out to get all the final, proposals and get some site plans, there can be a portion of it, to where, Public Works might be able to store some of their equipment, up there. I'm looking at elections that probably on one of the corners of the acreage up there, elections can have a permanent place. I know right now currently they're using the church, but they can have a building there. And it really just kind of depend on once we get our final drawings of our complex and what we're looking to put there, just how much space we'll have left for other, county departments to be able to add to it up there as well.
And just to clarify, can you tell us how much land you're looking at procuring here?
Right now it is 51.63 acres.
Okay.
And it's right, what we like to do, we like to tie in things with schools. We're right there next to the school where the schools can have access during the day, potentially PE classes. We're gonna have, a lot of times they do come over there for other elementaries across the street, but a lot of the middle schools, they do come down there to use our fields and our complex for special events, pavilions, just to get the kids, they'll be able to walk across the little pathway and they're able to use our facility as well.
Any other questions, concerns? Any discussion? If not, I'll call for a motion on this issue.
Move to approve, Mr. Chairman. It's a long time coming.
We'll have a race to get a second here. All right, all in favor? Motion passes unanimously.
All right, hey, thank y'all for your support.
Issue number 5, motion to approve the submission of an application to GEMA for the acquisition of 1014 Mill Creek Road, Statesboro, Georgia.
Good afternoon, Corey Camp, Director of Emergency Management. Got some pictures that's gonna come up. Mr. Richard Hanley, homeowner, land. We're asking permission to acquire his land. We do have some pictures of his house that was destroyed during the Debbie. I'll let him speak on the damages of his house and the pictures that you see.
Well, this has been going on for the last year. August of 28th of 2023, the house flooded. Mill Creek comes down about 50 yards from my back door, and they put in 3 culverts underneath the street coming from the airport. So, and that's about 50 feet off the side of my house. So when they all come together, my property starts flooding. On August the 28th of 2023, it flooded. My house is 3.5 feet off the ground on a concrete slab. And so there was 2.5 feet of water in the house on the lower level. So you're talking almost 6.5 feet of water on the property itself, which destroyed 2 vehicles. I pay for FEMA flood insurance, have been since 2009. They came out and, more or less sent a cleanup crew to disassemble the lower level. And then as things were starting to get back together again, on August 8th of 2024, it flooded again, only this time there was 4.5 feet of water on the lower level. It completely destroyed the lower level of the house. Then as the water went down and they more or less tried to clean it up again. It flooded again, September the 6th of 2024, and there was 2.5 feet of water again on the lower level. The house is completely destroyed. It's unlivable. I've kept up on paying taxes and my flood insurance and everything else, but the house is completely destroyed. It's it's unlivable. I mean, there was 3 vehicles on the property and they were all underwater. So I mean, it's gonna happen again. It's happened 3 times in less than a year's time, and it's gonna happen again.
What you see on the screen now is a spreadsheet of what the cost will be, or may be. The acquisition cost is about $80,000. Then we have to get the testing done to clear it, property cleared and everything else. But he has agreed to pay the 15% out of the acquisition cost, correct?
Excuse me?
The 15%?
Right.
I'm sorry, he's
Now-
hard of hearing. I'm not yelling at him.
But that isn't exactly right.
Correct. We're still working on the acquisition cost because they
'Cause
merged
the-
your land.
Right.
Yes, they
they're gonna-
merged them, correct.
It comes to like 88,000.
Correct,
Right.
yes, they haven't merged them in the system, so I can't see them in the system yet, okay?
Okay.
Okay, but yeah, it should be like 88,000. But he has agreed that, you also know that is 100% voluntary, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so he
I'm
understands that.
69 years old. I can't do this no more.
Okay. All right, so, any questions? The motion is, can we move forward to acquire this property, which will become open space? Nothing will ever be built there again, just be a warranty deed that has a house that was there that can't be built on anymore.
Go ahead.
What's the process again of how this works with the FEMA and all that stuff, with the, how long does it take and all that stuff?
Correct. The application I will try to get done by the end of the week and submit it to the state. Once the state sees it, they will submit it to FEMA. The process there should take anywhere between 6 and 12 months. Generally, if we're first in line, I hope we will be, it should be quicker than that. Once it's awarded back to us, we will sit down with Mr. Hanley and have a closing. Once the closing is done, we will demolish the house, clean the property, and cut checks from there. And the timeline, hopefully it'll be about this time next year, if we can get it done this week. And that is my goal.
And I just want to ask a couple questions here real quick. Mr. Henley, first off, you filled out this application of your own free will, correct?
Yes, yes, sir.
And you're going to go through this process of your own free will?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you're agreeing to pay this 15% local share?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And so, just to clarify, Corey, with him covering the local share, the county will pay how much for this?
0%.
Thank you. Any other questions or concerns at this time? Hearing no other questions, I'm going to ask for a motion on this issue.
So moved, Mr. Chairman. Second.
All in favor? Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Henley.
You have a nice evening.
You too. So I think now we're going to, well, I know we're going to circle back. So we're back to issue number 4 on the consent agenda, and this is to approve a bid and enter into a contract with CR Industrial Services Incorporated for the installation of generators for Station 2, Station 3, Station 9, and Station 16 in the amount of $51,024.84 to be funded by the 24-25 General Fund budgeted for the Bulloch County Fire Department.
I
Mr.
think,
Corey Kemp.
can I just
Go
put
ahead.
one thing in there? This is actually going to be covered by SPLOST, and I believe, yeah.
2018, 2019.
Yeah, it was approved as part of the fire department's request for this fiscal year, but it's going to come from SPLOST, not the general fund or the fire fund.
Okay, well, that may make things a little bit easier.
Who wants to go first?
I've got one question, so whatever y'all want to do. And maybe the attorney might be able to help me. The whole process of bidding and quoting, because I thought we needed 3 quotes, but also we talked about bidding. What's the breakdown on that with the county policy on that? I guess that was really my only question.
Okay. The way these projects were done, they were submitted as one project to be done at a time. So we were going to do station 2, 3, 5, then 16. So they're submitted as as 4 different projects, but they were sent out as one quote to get everybody to just answer for one instead of sending one out at a time. So we will do Portal first, pay them off. Whenever we can get to register, then Cleto, then the new station. So they will all be done separately because we got to get the generators here from Mr. Cox, but also Georgia Power has a say-so when we can do it. Like Portal.
Scheduling with the disconnect.
They got to kill the power to the whole building. So it's a scheduling conflict as well. So we're going, instead of waiting until all of them, we decided just to do them one at a time.
Yeah, I understand that part. I just wanted to make sure that, typically I'm used to having 3 bids in front of me.
Correct. We sent out to 13 people.
Yeah, I'm not doubting that, but I'm just trying to figure out what the county policy is on having 3 bids versus having 2 quotes, I guess is what we're calling this project.
If
I just need
it's,
some
yeah,
clarification.
yes, when the policy says we need 3 quotes, if you did your due diligence, which if you reached out to 13 people, he can't help that not all of them, that they didn't want to quote it. So that happens, and Faye will ask people all the time, if she gets a requisition that has less than 3 quotes on it, she will ask him, who else did you reach out to? I need record of that, and just they didn't want to quote. But that shows the effort. Sometimes you just can't get anybody else.
I understand. I was just, like I said, I just want to make sure. I know we got some other stuff being investigated right now, so I was just making sure on my end before I vote on anything that we're clear.
And Mr. Newkirk, you'll see that a lot anytime working inside of a prison also, or a jail, sheriff's office. There's a lot of people that do not want to go through the process of having to wait to be cleared security-wise to go in. So it's not uncommon to see that.
That's fine. Appreciate it. I'm good.
Any other questions, discussion on this issue? Mr. Davis?
Portal, Elmer Phillip, where's the other location? It's not on.
Portal, register, Cleto. Yes, sir.
Cleto. Yeah.
Any other questions? If not, I'm going to ask for a motion on this issue.
Move to approve, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
All in favor? Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Next up would be item number 6 on the consent agenda. Approve a proposal from Pape Dawson Engineers to provide design and engineering services for a deceleration lane along State Highway 67 onto Anderson Cemetery Road for a lump sum fee of $37,500. Mr. Ron Nelson, you beat me to the punch.
Ron Nelson Engineering. Any questions specifically about this motion request?
Really don't have a question. I guess my issue with this is, one of the developers on this has Pulaski Point, and I know those roads are in bad shape over there, and the citizens over there are having a hard time getting the owner out there to fix them, as in the citizens are actually taking bags of concrete out into the roads and fixing potholes. I just have a hard time approving this whenever we know the other one is not being taken care of. So it's really nothing against engineering or anything like that. I just got a personal issue with that. I think it's like a slap in the face to the citizens of Pulaski Point. They can't get their road fixed, but here we're giving money to the developer on the other side. So that was it. Appreciate you coming up.
Understood.
Any other questions or comments on this issue? Mr. Davis?
Mr. Nelson, it says right here, grant requirements is that Bulloch County must appropriate $250,000 in T-SPLOST funds. Is that the only requirement that Bulloch County has on this grant?
To the best of my knowledge, that is correct. Yes, sir.
Yes, that's
That's the
correct.
best of my knowledge. Yes, sir.
That's the only obligation we have, not this $37,000 that we're looking at.
No, the 37,500 is a part of the 250,000.
It is part of.
Yes, sir.
This is the structure going on for the, what do they call it? Equal housing or
Workforce housing.
housing or something, right?
Right,
That's
it's
part of the
associated with
state?
the Development Authority, right?
Right, okay. I
And
was
the
making sure it's the
state,
same.
yeah, has
We had
appropriated
to,
money.
we had to throw this in even for the, to be even get the,
That's right, that's the match.
okay, for the, whatever the house is supposed to be, 300 or 280 or whatever, 300. 315, I can't remember, I
There
ain't
was
looking at it right here. in front.
$2.44 million put up, and we've got to provide 10%. I believe that's what the.
Okay,
what
I
the
just made
match
sure I was
is.
in the
That's
right
the
spot.
250,000.
And just to clarify, that money's already been allocated, and we're just making a withdrawal essentially from that fund to pay for this decel lane, correct?
Yes, sir, this was voted on, and approved December 17th, 2024.
Okay. Any other questions on this issue? Hearing no other questions, I'm going to ask for a motion.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second. All in favor? All opposed? Motion passes 4-1.
Thank you.
Next up, we have approved the purchase of a Farmall 90 horsepower tractor from Bulloch County, or for the Bulloch County Agricultural Complex from Tidewater Equipment in the amount of $69,467.43. We got Mr. Billy up here from
Yes,
the
good evening.
Ag Center.
Manager of the Ag Center, Billy Springer. What, I guess I'll start with, what can I answer? What question can I answer for you guys?
Go ahead, Mr. Davis.
This is a need, not a want.
Absolutely a need. Would you like a good explanation, sir? I'll be happy to provide it.
Well, I understand, but the public may.
Sure. Let's go back to the beginning. Mr. Mosley touched on it earlier. When we collected all the money to do the things for the Ag Center, and when we actually went to do it, it cost way more. So when we got ready to open, I was charged with the task of trying to secure a free tractor through sponsorship, which I was able to do. This supplemented, we have 3 pieces of equipment that we use to prepare those arenas. Those 3 pieces of equipment total $41,000 in capital costs that we've already paid for. One of them absolutely requires, the recommended minimum horsepower is 90 horsepower, 4-wheel drive tractor. Can't do it without it. It is our premier arena drag. It has a 500-gallon water tank that can apply water as we prepare and condition the arena floors for the competitions. No other tractor can pull it. The other 2 drags, depending on size of arena, application, depth, so on and so forth, recommended horsepower for those 2 drags are in the 60 to 90 horsepower range. Now, if you've ever bush hogged a field with a small bush hog or plowed a field with a too big of a harrow, sure, you can do it, but is it efficient and effective? And no, sir. You can bush hog a 40-acre field with a 6-foot bush hog and plan on spending a lot of time doing it and burning a lot of diesel fuel. So that being said, I was charged with the task of trying to acquire a tractor through a sponsorship, which I was able to do. Blanchard Equipment supplied us with a 90 horsepower 4-wheel drive tractor that we utilized until they decided to dissolve that agreement. Tidewater Equipment was able to step in and do the same deal with us. They provide us a brand new tractor at no charge. They service the tractor, and at 250 hours, they swap it for a new one. We've been a little over a year into our agreement with Tidewater, and we are now currently on our 2nd free tractor, which is actually a 100 horsepower tractor at this time. Those implements that we have, that's $41,000 that we've already spent money on. One of which we absolutely could not use without a 90 horsepower tractor. So if Tidewater decides to, tomorrow, we're done, I don't want to do it anymore, we don't have a tractor capable of pulling that piece of equipment. As we've grown, we've acquired about approximately $130,000 to $160,000 worth of gross revenue in rental customers that require the use of 2 tractors during their events. Just to let you guys know, I do charge extra for such a thing, and we are covering that additional cost in our rental fee. But those 2 customers, that's 6 events that require 2, and then our barrel racing customers require 2 tractors during their events as well. Without that 90 horsepower tractor, we would not be able to utilize one of those major pieces of equipment, $25,000. And I'll be honest with you, moving forward in time, I don't know how I would continue to service the $130,000 to $160,000 worth of gross revenue in rental customers without that 90 horsepower tractor. I'd either have to pick up the phone and just start saying, sorry, you're going to have to go somewhere else. Are there any other questions?
Mr. Chairman, may I speak?
Yes.
Mr. Billy?
Yes.
Let me apologize for stepping over your head. I called Rawls Neville. He's the,
Happens to me all the time. It's all right.
he's a Tidewater man in Denmark.
Yes, sir.
He called his president.
Yes, sir.
He said with this purchase, he would guarantee us to continue to have the donation of the tractor.
Absolutely.
And at the end of that he would do his very best, and Rawls would too, to continue to donate this tractor or another tractor, because they have to swap it out as a demo
Absolutely.
for less hours.
Yes, sir.
So what we're actually getting for the price of one tractor is 2 tractors.
That's right. And yes, sir, you nailed it. We are basically continuing to get 2 tractors for the price of 1. And let's just say, as we talked about earlier, we don't know what the future holds. And if, for whatever reason, Tidewater gets bought out or whatever may happen in the future, and they pull that sponsorship, I'm not left in a position where I literally have to turn away revenue and business and economic impact for Bulloch County.
Mr. Chairman, I've never bought a red tractor, but when you get ready for a motion, I've got one.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions or discussions on this issue?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes,
If
sir.
I may make a comment, as everyone on the board knows and most in the audience, that Billy lost his right-hand man out there some months ago. And, I was unaware of this donation that had been going on for how many years with the tractor?
Now with Tidewater, it's 6 years, yes, sir. 6.5. We had to rent a tractor, and it cost us through the nose for about 3 months when Blanchard dissolved their agreement. Yes, sir.
So, and that didn't happen on its own. Mr. Springer went out and arranged that. I also would like to say I visit him as often as I can out there because it's a nice facility. And I don't think there'll be any further questions, and I know Mr. Davis got clarification on what he wanted. We appreciate that. But I'm going to ask Billy to repeat the one question that his son asked him the other day. Do you remember what that was we was talking about?
You caught me. I do know.
When I was talking to you about you need to go home?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true.
And your son said, are you going to be home before I go to bed?
Yes, sir. Am
So
I gonna be home?
this man puts in the hours out there that y'all don't see. And I can tell you of anybody in this county that takes care of county business, it's him. So thank you.
Well, thank you for the kind words, and, I appreciate everyone's due diligence, okay? I sincerely do, and I do not take spending other people's money lightly. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Springer. That being said, Is there any other questions or discussion on this issue? If not, I'm going to ask Mr. Davis to make his motion.
Motion to approve.
All in favor? Motion passes unanimously. Congratulations, Mr. Davis. You just bought your first red tractor. So I believe that brings us to a conclusion of all of our business and leads us to our commission and staff comments. I'm going to open the floor. Is there any staff that has any comments they'd like to make this evening? Mr. Tillman, do you have any comments you'd like to make this evening?
No, sir, I'm good. Thank you.
How about the commissioners?
I just want to thank Dee back there again for getting those fields or getting that land up there in Portal. I know Portal, I've been getting a bunch of phone calls about that just in the last few months. They didn't realize what was about to take place. So I appreciate Dee pushing that. I also want to apologize to the citizens of Bulloch County. The last budget workshop was not live streamed or recorded. That was the first time I realized that the budget workshops weren't, or all the workshops weren't. So I'm in the process of trying to change that from here on out. And if it doesn't get changed, I'll be more than happy to live stream it myself. But I just want to apologize to the citizens of that can't get off at 8:30 in the morning to come up here to a budget meeting. And I think everybody should have access to that. So I appreciate that.
I'll make that real easy for you. We've already discussed that this week, as far as making sure that any of the meetings that we have that are open to the public will be recorded and live streamed from here on out.
Thank you, sir.
Any other questions? Nate?
I just got reminded. Thank y'all for the proclamation. That starts Public Works Week, May the 19th through the 24th. But May the 19th will be Touch a Truck activity at the Ag Arena. We've done that now. I think this will be the third year. And so it includes a lot of emergency response services and gives the public an opportunity to come out and experience that and see the machines and give the kids a chance to ask some questions and get excited about some of the things they see and talk to the operators, the employees and Sheriff's Department, Fire Department, EMS, everybody, Ag Arena, Rec Department, all of us. So I just wanted to mention that so that it's out there for the public. We're publicizing that through the schools. Dale's working on getting that information out. Miss Stephanie has been our coordinator for that event, and we greatly appreciate that. So I just wanted to mention it. Thank you.
Thank you. Before we close, at our last meeting, I was asked to put together a working group to explore options for the disposal of septage in Bulloch County. About a week and a half ago, the working group that consists of myself, Commissioner Davis, James Pope, Ron Nelson, and Randy Tillman met with Hofstetler and Associates, engineer that's also doing our looking into the water and the wells, and discussed some options for the disposal of septage in Bulloch County. And what we came up with is there's a lot of different ways we go about doing this. We could treat waste and then pump it to Bryan County. We could make our own pumping station here. We could also look at considering a spray field by itself. Although the EPD has become very critical of the spray fields because of the environmental impacts that are put on the local area from them. And what we came out of that meeting and decided is that Hofstetler and Associates is basically going to look at all of those options and try to give us a business cost analysis for each one of them. The other thing that we discussed with them is if we're going to have to invest in infrastructure to treat septage in this county, we want to make something that we could potentially add on to at a later date if there ever became a need for the county to develop a sewage treatment plant. So they said that they would work to build that in as well. At our next meeting, we'll bring a motion forward to fund that study. But I just wanted to give everybody in the room and the other commissioners here an update on that, so they knew that this isn't something that's fallen to the wayside. And I did forget, Keith Hamilton has also been working with us on that working group. But I wanted to provide that update to the community so they knew that this isn't something that we're ignoring. We recognize that this is an issue, and that if Portal or Candler County decided that they didn't want to take our septage anymore, we would have some significant issues here. The other thing I want to do is remind everybody that this is also National Firefighters Month. Is that correct? Month, day? Day. I think you ought to get a little bit more. Here lately, you've been getting a whole lot of days. So that being said, Mr. Tillman, I think we decided that it was Sunday. Is that correct? Mother's Day?
Yes, we did.
Okay.
We did decide that.
I did get a reminder that Mother's Day is on Sunday. If your last name is Bennett and you waited to the last minute, this is the last minute. That being said, I just want to thank all the employees of the county again. I know we say this every time that we have a meeting, but I appreciate what y'all do. And I know y'all work hard, and there's a lot of times that y'all are doing more, even more with even less. We want to make sure that you have the tools that you need to complete your job and take care of the people of this county. We want to make sure that you're safe and that you're ready to do your jobs. So thank y'all. Yeah, thank y'all. If there's no further discussion, I'm going to call for a motion to adjourn this meeting.
So move, Mr. Chairman.
Do I have a second? All in favor? This meeting is now adjourned.